Hello everyone, welcome to Study with Sophia. This is my first video, so please, if you like it, then give it a thumbs up and please subscribe my channel and please share it to others if you like the video. So today we will talk about the novel The Great Gatsby, and this novel has written by F. Scott Fitzgerald. So first of all, we will talk about the author of this novel, and he is his full name is Francis Scott Key Fitzgerald, and he has born September 24th in 1996 in St. Paul, Minnesota, US, and he has died in December 21st, 1940, Hollywood in California. He is an American short story writer and novelist. He is famous for his depictions of the Jazz Age. His most brilliant novel, The Great Gatsby, which is published in 1925, and there are more other notable works like Tales of the Jazz Age, Tender is the Night, The Beautiful and Damned. The Great Gatsby is the third novel by F. Scott Fitzgerald, which is published in 1925 by Charles Scribner's Sons. And the setting of this novel is in Jazz Age, New York. The novel tells the tragic story of J. Gatsby, a self-made millionaire, and his pursuit of Daisy Buchanan, a wealthy young woman whom he loved in his youth. Let's go to the novel. The Great Gatsby is the third novel of F. Scott Fitzgerald, published in 1925 by Charles Scribner's Sons. And the setting of this novel is in Jazz Age in New York. The novel tells the tragic story of J. Gatsby, a self-made millionaire, and his pursuit of Daisy Buchanan, a young woman whom he loved in his youth. Now we will talk about the characters of this novel. First, Nick Carraway, who is narrator of this novel. Second, Jay or James Gatsby is protagonist. Third, Daisy Buchanan, who is Nick's sister. Fourth, Tom Buchanan, Daisy's husband. Jordan Baker, Daisy's friend. Seventh, Marital Wilson, Tom's lover. And then George Wilson, Marital's husband. And the last, Mayor Wolsham, Gatsby's friend. The book is narrated by Nick Carraway, a Yale University graduate from the Midwest who moves to New York after World War I to pursue a career in bonds. He recounts the events of the summer he spent in the East 2 years later, reconstructing his story through a series of flashbacks, not always told him in chronological order. In the spring of 1922, Nick takes a house in the fictional village of West Egg on Long Island, where he finds himself living among the colossal mansions of the newly rich. Across the water in the more refined village of East Egg live his cousin Daisy and her British absurdly wealthy husband Tom Buchanan. Early in the summer, Nick goes over to their house for dinner, where he also meets Jordan Baker, a friend of Daisy's and a well-known golf champion, who tells him that Tom has a mistress in New York City. In a private conversation, Daisy confesses to Nick that she has been unhappy. Returning to his house in West Egg, he catches sight of his neighbor J. Gatsby standing alone in the dark and stretching his arms out to a green light burning across the bay at the end of Tom and Daisy's dock. Early in July, Tom introduces Nick to his mistress, Marital Wilson, who lives with her spiritless husband, George Wilson, in what Nick calls a valley of ashes, an industrial wasteland presided over by the bespectacled eyes of Dr. T.J. Eichelberg, which stare down from an advertising billboard. Meeting her at the garage where George works as a repairman, the three of them go to Tom and Marital's apartment in Manhattan. They are joined by Marital's sister and some other friends who live nearby, and the evening ends in heavy drunkenness and Tom punching Meridel in the nose when she brings up Daisy. Nick wakes up in a train station the morning afterward. As the summer progresses, Nick grows accustomed to the noises and lights of dazzling parties held at his neighbor's house, where the famous and newly rich turn up on Saturday nights to enjoy Gatsby's well stocked bar and full jazz orchestra. Nick attends one of these parties when personally invited by Gatsby and runs into Jordan, with whom he spends most of the evening. He is struck by the apparent absence of the host and the impression that all of his guests seem to have dark theories about Gatsby's past. However, Nick meets him at last in a rather quiet encounter later in the evening when the man sitting beside him identifies himself as Gatsby. Gatsby disappears and later asks to speak to Jordan privately. Jordan returns amazed by what he has told her, but she is unable to tell Nick what it is. Nick begins seeing Jordan Baker as the summer continues, and he also becomes better acquainted with Gatsby. One afternoon in late July, when they are driving into Manhattan for lunch, Gatsby tries to dispel the rumors circulating around himself. He tells Nick that he is the son of very wealthy people who are all dead and that he is an Oxford man and a war hero. At Gatsby's request, Nick agrees to invite Daisy to his house where Gatsby can meet her. A few days later, he has them both over for tea, and Daisy is astonished to see Gatsby after nearly 5 years. The meeting is at first uncomfortable, and Nick steps outside for half an hour to give the two of them privacy. When he returns, they seem fully reconciled. Gatsby glowing with happiness and Daisy in tears. Afterward, they go next door to Gatsby's enormous house, and Gatsby shows off its impressive room to Daisy. As the days pass, Tom becomes aware of Daisy's association with Gatsby. Disliking it, he shows up at one of Gatsby's parties with his wife. It becomes clear that Daisy does not like the party and is appalled by the impropriety of the new money crowd at West Egg. Tom suspects that Gatsby is a bootlegger, and he says so, voicing his dismay to Nick after the party is over. Gatsby explains that he wants Daisy to tell Tom she never loved him and then marry him as though the years had never passed. Gatsby's wild parties cease thereafter, and Daisy goes over to Gatsby's house in the afternoons. On a boiling hot day near the end of the summer, Nick arrives for lunch at the Buchanan's house. Gatsby and Jordan have also been invited. In the dining room, Daisy pays Gatsby a compliment that makes clear her love for him, and when Tom notices this, he insists they drive into town. Daisy and Gatsby leave in Tom's blue coupe, while Tom drives Jordan and Nick in Gatsby's garish yellow. On the way, Tom stops for gas at George Wilson's garage in the Valley of Ashes, and Wilson tells Tom that he is planning to move west with Myrtle as soon as he can raise the money. This news shakes Tom considerably, and he speeds on toward Manhattan, catching up with Daisy and Gatsby. The whole party ends up in a parlor at the Plaza Hotel, hot and in bad temper. As they are about to drink mint juleps to cool off, Tom confronts Gatsby directly on the subject of his relationship with Daisy. Daisy tries to calm them down, but Gatsby insists that Daisy and he have always been in love and that she has never loved Tom. As the fight escalates and Daisy threatens to leave her husband, Tom reveals what he learned from an investigation into Gatsby's affairs, that he had earned his money by selling illegal alcohol at drug stores in Chicago with Wolfsham after prohibition laws went into effect. Gatsby tries to deny it, but Daisy has lost her resolve and his cause seems hopeless. As they leave the plaza, Nick realizes that it is his 30th birthday. Gatsby and Daisy leave together in Gatsby's car, with Daisy driving. On the road, they hit and kill Myrtle, who, after having a vehement argument with her husband, and run into the street toward Gatsby's car's passing car, thinking it was Tom. Terrified, Daisy continues driving, but the car is seen by witnesses. Coming behind them, Tom stops his car when he sees a commotion on the road. He is stunned and devastated when he finds the body of his mistress dead on a table in Wilson's garage. Wilson accusingly tells him it was a yellow car that hit her, but Tom insists it was not his and drives on to East Egg in tears. But back at the Buchanan's house in East Egg, Nick finds Gatsby hiding in the garden and learns that it was Daisy who was driving. Though Gatsby insists that he will say it was him if his car is found. He says he will wait outside Daisy's house in case Tom abuses Daisy. The next morning, Nick goes over to Gatsby's house where he has returned dejected. Nick advises him to go away, afraid that his car will be traced. He refuses, and that night he tells Nick the truth about his past. He had come from a poor farming family and had met Daisy in Louisville while serving in the army. But he was too poor to marry her at the time. He earned his incredible wealth only after the war by bootlegging, as Tom discovered. Reluctantly, Nick leaves for work while Gatsby continues to wait for a call from Daisy. That afternoon, George Wilson arrives in East Egg, where Tom tells him that it was Gatsby who killed his wife. Wilson makes his way to Gatsby's house, where he finds Gatsby in his pool. Wilson shoots Gatsby and then himself. Afterward, the Buchanans leave Long Island. They give no forwarding address. Nick arranges Gatsby's funeral. Also, only two people attend, one of whom is Gatsby's father. Nick moves back to the Midwest, disgusted with life in the East. The characters of this novel explores themes of materialism and the American dream. And if we talk about the narrative techniques, The Great Gatsby is written in first person limited perspective from Nick's point of view. Thank you for watching the video. Please like, share and subscribe my channel, and don't forget to hit the bell icon to get the notification of next videos.